Folks, welcome to Billy Jim's Guide to the Ballet. Today we're going to be talking about that famous Queen of France, Catherine de Medici, who also just happens to be a really famous Italian too. So, Catherine de Medici, one of the great patrons of ballet. She was born in 1519, and when she was a little baby, her folks died of the plague. Now, Catherine de Medici was born into one of the wealthiest families of all time, the Medici family, which just goes to show you, your folks can be really rich and they can still die of the plague. Well, when she was 14 years old, she come busting out of this convent and gets married to this fella named Henry II. Henry II, he was in line for the throne of France, and he was not really supposed to be a king, but then his older brother died and he became king, and Catherine, she became queen. That's how many things work out. Catherine gets married to the prince, right? And then suddenly everybody's going like, hey, Catherine, man, you got to start having some kids, man. Let's go. And she starts thinking, ooh, I got to have some kids. And so then she gets really nervous and she gets really scared, because sometimes that happens when you want to have kids. Suddenly you can't have them, right? So she starts doing all kinds of stuff to try to have kids, right? So she's like putting cow chips down there, and she's like down there, you know what I mean? And she's putting like ground up stag antlers down there, and she's drinking mule's pee and all this stuff, the grossest thing you can think of. And then all of a sudden something starts to work, because Catherine starts popping out all these kids. Catherine ends up popping out like 10 kids. 7 of them lived, right? So something worked. So in 1533 Catherine becomes queen, but then in 1559 her husband dies in a jousting accident where he has this thing rammed in his eye, and it breaks off, and it's got like these 5 large splinters sticking in his brain and sticking in his eye. Terrible, terrible. So her son, Francis II, Francis II, he goes on the throne, right? And then she's not queen anymore, but she's regent, which means she's the power behind the throne. Now, Francis at this time was having all kind of trouble, because they was having these wars between the Catholics and the Protestants, and it was the French war of religion, and they were going after each other, and it was a terrible, terrible thing, as you can probably imagine. So Catherine, she's looking around, looking this way, looking that way, and everywhere around her, she's thinking, all these people think the Valois monarchy is going down the tubes. That's her husband's thing, the Valois monarchy. Her husband's dynasty is going, crashing. So she's thinking, we got to do something about this. So she decides that what she needs is to show people that the monarchy is still prestigious and powerful. So what she does is she decides to put on these shows. Now the shows are called magnificences, and it's basically everything you can think of. It's got horses, it's got hot babes, it's got mock battles, it's got fireworks, it's got fountains, it's got people dressed as trees. Man, it's got everything. So these shows, they feature these hot babes called the Flying Squadron. See, Catherine had about 80 of these ladies in waiting at the court to spy on courtiers and ambassadors and get information. And what they would do is they would sleep with the courtiers and the ambassadors, and a little pillow talk, little pillow talk going, hee-hoo-ha-hee-ha-ha, and that would get you some political information that you could use on the inside later. See, and everybody loved these ladies in waiting, see, because these ladies in waiting were hot, right? They were hot, and they were good dancers, right? And they were all part of these magnificences, see. Well, these magnificences, they got bigger and bigger and bigger, and the crowds, they got bigger and bigger and bigger, and pretty soon everybody loved these things. They loved these magnificences, and one of the biggest ones, actually we talked about this last week, was in the Ballet Comique de la Reine. Remember when we talked about that? So things did not go very well for Catherine there at the end. She ended up dying of pleurisy in 1589. And to make matters worse, during the French Revolution, they dug up her bones and they put them in a mass grave, because them folks during the French Revolution, they was crazy. That's why. What came out of Catherine's time was the ballet de cour, or the court ballet, which would be passed on to future kings, specifically and especially to Louis XIV, who would change ballet forever. So that's it for old Catherine. Be sure and hit the like or subscribe or share button if you're feeling generous. And we'll see you next week. Bye.